Do you ever boot up a 30-minute game of chess online? Probably not. But you should. It's kind of fun. Sometimes magic happens. And I just did that, and some magic happened. And if you want to see the magic, then make sure you stick around, like, and subscribe for more content like this. Let's hop into the game. I'm playing with the white pieces here at around 1800, and I open with e4, and we get a Sicilian defense on the board. Beth Harmon, I believe, played the Sicilian in Queen's Gambit. If you joined on the bandwagon. Then c3, here's the Alpine Sicilian, and knight f6, e5. Okay, this is all my prep. I do have a course, and this is all in my opening prep. Knight f3, preventing, you can't do this because the knight hangs. So you just kind of get an extra, a little boost in development there because black assumes you're going to take back, right? But instead you play knight f3. Knight c6, bishop c4, knight b6, bishop b3, and all of this is in my prep. Now the line I forgot here. We're 7 moves in, and the line should go e takes d6, queen d6, castles, bishop e6, queen e6, knight d4, knight d4. Give yourself the isolated queen's pawn. Black tries to target it with something like this. You ignore the threat. Black can win your center pawn, but you go after b7 like this. And then after black maybe defends with the rook, then you get like bishop g5 going after the king, and the other rook is coming in. You follow? Yeah? That's the prep. I forgot it. Here. And for some reason I was like, is e takes d6 the move? See, I could kind of picture that line, but I couldn't remember if it was actually this opening or not. It is. But instead I was a fool and a silly little boy, and I played this, which is just a bad move. For so many reasons. The d4 pawn is weak now, and the black bishop gets out, right? And my bishop gets shut out after e6 eventually, right? And he's already got some good pressure here. And he's going to get, he's got the C file. He'll get a rook over too. And this is just annoying, right? He has no problems with development now. It's like a better version of the French defense. Look at this, right? Like a better version. If we imagine the French like this, E5, and maybe like C5, C3, takes. This is the general structure, right? We have these pawns going on, except the black bishop is shut out. And black has the bad French bishop. Whereas in our version, after bishop g4, black gets the bishop outside of the pawn chain and just has a better version. Yeah, so misplayed the opening, but it's okay. I play bishop e3 because the threat is like, if I castle, then he can take here. And if I take with the queen, then d4 falls, and that's bad. So I'd have to do this, and this is just not great. I know there's a bishop there, but maybe like this, or maybe like f5, f6, once castles, get the rook open and pressure. That's kind of what happens in the game. But let's go back to what actually happens, which is bishop e3, defending the center pawn on d4, e6, castles, bishop e7, knight c3, develop, and a3. Way too slow. Now, why did I play a3? Well, I had a few reasons. One, actually, no, I had like one main reason. And the idea was I want to play queen d3, bishop c2, and line up an attack over here. Now, obviously, this idea is just dumb right now because the bishop can just go back, and like that's never going to work. So I don't know why I was like gung-ho for that. So I was like, wait, but I can't play queen d3 right away because of knight b4. So let me prevent knight b4 with a3. And I thought this was just kind of a useful move in the position in general because like I prevent the knight from advancing, but it's just a bad move because it creates unnecessary light squared weaknesses, which are utilized by black a bit later. Now, let's go forward. a3 is a mistake here. Should have been a bit more active. Maybe even go for like h3, bishop takes, queen takes, and like f6. And then just going back to like e2 and like giving up the center pawn because you get bishop b6. Wow. Discovered attack on the knight. Wow. Even after like, you can't even play bishop f6. Well, actually, wait, no, because you can't take on e6. You just go back. And black gets all this, but knight e4 and white is winning. Oh my goodness, because you're up a piece. It doesn't matter that black gets all this. That's crazy. You know who didn't see that? This guy sitting right here. You didn't see it either. Stockfish saw it. So anyway, I play a3, f6. And now I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, this is no good. No bueno. Nicht so gut, yeah? Very bad. Very bad. is my position, because he's just attacking my center now, and his rook is going to open up no matter what. And this pin is really annoying. I probably shouldn't have gone knight c3. I feel like knight d2, knight bd2 would have been good, because then I can like get my queen out of the pin and my knight is still defended here. But you know, I went here because I'm like, my knight wants to be in the center. And so, yeah, castle's a3, f6, I take it. I take it because if I try to go for this queen d3, bishop c2, queen h7 idea, well, first of all, you can take the knight and then take on e5. And if I try bishop c2 lining it up, then just g6. Now, I actually thought here e4 when I calculated it because I didn't see the pawn here, but the bishop doesn't have to take, right? Imagine he takes this right away, and then if I were to try this, he can play e4 and shut me out completely, which is so annoying that the pawn that took my center pawn blocks the attack. That's so annoying, and creates like a very strong central pawn formation. But here, there's knight takes e5, which I didn't quite see. I didn't want the passed pawn in any kind of nonsense, but I guess this could have been a way to go. But the rook is still open, and the bishop might get traded off. I don't know. It's that's kind of my thoughts in that position. So I didn't see that. I pretty much hallucinated some stuff, but I kind of showed you what I saw. Instead, I go here, and I'm like, you know what? At least I create a weakness on e6, right? And I get the e5 square. And yeah, we'll try and go for that if we can. And maybe there's some sacrifice ideas, like takes in the center with check. You know, if the knight and queen move away, like it's an idea. It's not actually on the board. Like it doesn't work, but you know, we all have hope. Also, look at the time. Look at the time. We're on move 13. This tricky opponent is the username. Booted up a 30-minute game on chess.com. We're on move 13, which I guess is still pretty early in the game, and he's used like 2 minutes. You know how annoying that is to play against? When you're trying to sit there and think, let's play an hour-long chess game. No, opponent is blitzing out moves left and right, and they're better. It's the worst feeling in the world. When you're thinking for so long and you get in a position like this. You know? So f6, I take. And I go here. Queen d3, bishop c2, and let's go. Now, of course, he takes and doubles this and weakens my king, right? But I was like, okay, let's try and make it work. Then he goes here. And computer gives a few ideas. One is just to bring this, ignore the pawn, right? Give up the pawn. Whoops. You're down a pawn now. But you have to give that pawn up. There's no use saving it, which is what I tried to do in the game. There's no point because it's such a bad pawn and your position is kind of better without it. Because after like rook takes, I guess just queen e2 hitting the rook. So if like queen f6 trying to defend it, isn't the queen overloaded? No, because you take with check. And that was the other idea of the engine, was actually, after queen f6, you can't do that. I don't really see what else you do. But anyway, the other idea of the engine was king h1. And after rook takes, then like bishop c2, setting up this, g6, and then there's bishop g5. And this crazy capture chain, which I did not see, where, you know, both queens are hanging. So after rook takes, bishop takes, rook takes c3, bc3, rook d1, rook d8, you're up in exchange. And much better because you're going after e6. Yeah. Didn't see that. No, I did not see that. Instead, I think like bozo, and I feel like that's like a coined term. I can't even use that term anymore. Sorry, Levy. Let's say I played like a weenie. Yeah, that's accurate. I played like a mega weenie. Should go to Mega Weenie Hut Jr. after this. My sensors indicate that you are a weenie. I hope the SpongeBob thing overlays on the screen. Otherwise, you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, and you probably think I'm insane. A little bit. Anyway, bishop c2 sets up the threat on h7. That tangent went on for too long. g6 blocks, and queen e2 defending the pawn, which after like queen f6, the pawn is just gonna die, and now I'm too passive, and there's like no hope, right? Obi-Wan Kenobi is nowhere to be found. So yeah, but instead, my opponent goes here after like 15 seconds of thought, makes a very rash decision, and it's bad. And I'm like, okay, now my pawns are better. They're pretty weak, and my king is open, and like I got a lot of weaknesses going on over here. But at the same time, maybe I can push like e4 at some point, maybe get a rook to the g file, and maybe get something going. So queen g5 check, I slide over, and knight c4. Yeah, it makes sense getting the knight in. It hits e3, right? That's attacked twice, and it attacks b2. So it's a bit of a tricky move to defend against. So I play f4, hitting the queen, winning that tempo there. And now e3 is safe for the moment. And I go here, attacking the knight twice, right? Trying to get some goodies if he ignores me. Now, here my opponent started playing a bit strange for the next few moves and plays knight a5. Now, one would think, not b5, because I guess the knight could just take, but one would think knight d6, knight e4. That's kind of what I was expecting, but I was like, at least for now, I control e4 twice, so he can't really ever go there at the moment. And I thought that's where the knight was going to go, but instead, knight a5, and I'm like, what? You're just hanging on to the knight on the edge of the board. Also, doesn't that just lose to b4, removing the defender? And I calculated this, but look at the time. Again, I'm at 12 minutes against 25, so I was like, what's annoying with the move b4 is that it almost wins like right away. But b4, knight b3 hits the rook. And you would think, oh, I just attacked the knight. But then this is the most disgusting move that I have seen in quite a while. It makes me want to vomit. Like, look at the knight on d2 on a search and destroy mission, forking the pieces and defending the knight again. Isn't this insane? I was so mad when I saw that because he played knight a5 in what? 30 seconds? Less than 30 seconds? And I was like, no way this man calculated b4 in 30 seconds. And I was like, what? So I just spoiled everything. But b4, knight b3, you have to play rook d1, which I saw, but then I was like, rook c8, and now what? But I guess I should have realized, the knights are not like the best. But here, you have a very nice move, knight e4. Knight e4, because the pawn is overloaded, right? So if takes, and you hit e6, you hit the knight on b3, and you're going to win. There's no way to defend the knight because it wandered in too far. It's stuck. So you win. Instead, you would have to play like queen h5, but then after trading and going like knight g5, actually, no, because then knight takes c3 is bad. You take the knight first and then actually go back to c3, blockade the passed pawn, and black's knight is still stuck here, and you're just going to push like this, right? And go after the king as well. And these weaknesses are going to be pretty bad for black. So that's what I should have seen here. I should have seen b4, knight b3, rook d1, rook c8. That's as far as I calculated. I didn't see knight e4 here. Instead, I saw knight e4 right away. So I just didn't take that idea and tag it on to the end of the calculation that I did earlier. And I just saw it here, and I was like, ooh, that's a nice idea. Because the pawn is overloaded, right? So pretty simple idea there. And I was like, if takes, then takes, and I thought this was good for me. Because I get the c file. I'm going to get into the 7th rank, hopefully. I'm attacking e6 right away, so black has to waste a move defending that. Theoretically, although counterplay is a thing, so maybe you actually go back and it's just a draw after like rook ac8, rook g1, but I don't know. These pawns are not convincing me. So that was kind of what I was going for there. But instead, knight b3, which made zero sense to me. Because I just moved the rook, and now what is the knight doing on b3? And then he goes here. I was like, what? Why wouldn't you go like here? Well, I guess then knight g5 is winning. But I was so confused. I guess already black is pretty much lost after knight b3. Yeah. Yeah, you had to take the knight. Or play knight takes e3. Queen takes e3, then takes. Or take with the queen. And even though e6 is weak, queen f6, you know, defends and creates counterplay and stuff. Wow. But instead, opponent goes back. Ugly. This is the ugliest thing. The knights willingly wandered to the edge of the board doing nothing, and they're loose. So like neither of them can really move without the other one being undefended like entirely. So I go knight g5 attacking e6. Opponent defends it. And here I notice something really cool. I notice that the queen is almost trapped. The queen doesn't have very many squares at all. So I kind of reverse engineered this idea of rook f3, rook h3. And I was like, that traps the queen. So after queen h5, I don't want to play this right away because of queen takes e2 and you have to win this game. Instead, be patient. Queen g2. There's no way for black to get out of it. And the king is really weak, right? This like bishop sack idea, it could be a thing. Right now the pawn's pretty well defended, but I mean this rook is coming in and like things could be happening here. So he plays h6, attacking my knight. Now your first thought when your piece gets attacked, especially in a position where all your pieces are pointed at the king and you have ideas of trapping your opponent's strongest piece, when you have a pawn attacking your piece, your first thought should be, I am not moving that knight, right? Can I not move the piece and find something stronger than just retreating, right? I don't want to go knight h3. So I think I can't do this right away because it drops the rook on d1, right? So let's move the rook. And I got a brilliant for it, which is pretty cool. You just move the rook. And now this, combined with the bishop, combined with rook h3, which is unstoppable, by the way. My opponent plays the best response, which is this, but you have to give up the queen. And yeah, the game ends. I should have played this, hitting the rook and going for, this. But again, at this point, I have 3 minutes on the clock and there's no bonus time. So I play rook takes thinking, well, hey, I'm going to pile up on g6 like mad. And so I do just that. My opponent defends. He's completely tied down to the defense of the g6 pawn. So I find queen c2, which is a really nice move. Makes me think of the, was it the opera game where, was it Morphe? I can't remember. I'm a bad boy. I think it was like some like queen f3 went to b3 or something. There was something, I can't remember. But this like queen swivel maneuver is fun. And now I'm still attacking this and now threatening to get in on the 7th rank for some fun geometry over there. You want to find the hypotenuse? SOHCAHTOA, anybody? So the rook goes back defending the 7th rank. Now, question for you. Do you take g6 with the rook or with the bishop? Which do you take with? The rook, because it's check. No. I mean, it's still fine and it's still winning. But here, like, you still have to win this game, right? And, like, it's obviously going to be winning, but you still got to win it, right? Instead, if you take with the bishop, you're setting up a discovered check, which is stronger, especially because I hit his rook right now. So opponent goes here, moving the rook out of the way. And now notice the time again. 1 minute and 42 seconds against like 17 minutes. This is crazy, crazy stuff. Imagine booting up a 30-minute game and using less than half your time and you're completely losing. Yeah. So I didn't play bishop h5. This leads to a forced mate in 6. But here's the thing. It's much safer to, in low time, if you can't calculate it all the way, it's much safer to move this piece to a square that it is not making, like it can't be captured, right? It's safer to do that. So I go back to d3, but the forced mate looks something like this, bishop h5. And also, before you play a move like this, you're going to want to see it through all the way, which I didn't have time to do. Now, my intuition could have told me this led to a forced mate, blah, 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 but whatever. king f7, rook g6, rook g6, queen g6 is made in 1 here. Yeah. So you can't do that. So if after bishop h5, king f6, rook g6, king f7, then you get rook takes h6, discovered check. And if king f8, then you get queen c8, rook e8, queen e8, king g7, and queen h8, mate. And if here the king goes to g8, then it's even faster. You go queen g6, rook g7, and queen e8, mate. What else do we have? Let's see. After this check, I guess king g7, but then you just go queen g6, and it's pretty easy there with this mate. So what if we go back and after bishop h5, king doesn't go to f6, maybe the king goes to h8. Well, then you get queen c8, rook e8, queen takes c8, check, king h7, queen g8, mate. Okay, let's say after bishop h5, the king goes to f8. Well, then you get queen c8, rook e8, queen c8, mate. I think we covered all the bases. Yeah, did not see all of those mates in the amount of time that I had. So I played it safe, maybe a bit too timid, and I go back to d3, check, and I thought, I'm so winning this game. And I did right away. The king went to h8. Which the only way to keep the game going is to go to like f6 or f8. But it's still completely winning after something like this. And I guess queen d7, setting up this mate. How do you stop it? I guess you go here. But then what do I have? Queen c8, rook here. And why does it just say to repeat? Queen c7? No, queen d6, but then rook here, queen b8. Okay, so the computer starts throwing out a bunch of random moves. But anyway, king goes to h8 and Matutski. That was a great game. That was a really cool game. I really enjoyed playing rook g1 here when he attacked my knight, and I was like, screw the knight. I'm trapping the queen. That was fun. What else was fun? Playing knight e4 was fun. In the game, I thought I was pretty clever. And it is a nice move, right? But I should have probably seen this b4, knight b3, rook d1, rook c8, knight e4, I suppose. But that's a bit harder to see because you have to calculate a few moves before you get to the fun knight e4 move. And then you have to see that this wins a piece. Yeah, I didn't see that. But anyway, pretty cool game. If we run through really quick, stick with me. I promise watching a brief overview of the game at the very end is going to kind of recap all of the thoughts for you. So we have an Alpine Sicilian where I kick his knight into the center of the board, play knight f3, develop, and then I misremembered my prep and I played the opening incorrectly, allowing his bishop to get too active. Now it's like a good version of the French. And knight c3, we develop some pieces. a3 is a bit too slow because now f6 creates too much counterplay against my center and king, and I open it up. Going after a weak pawn on e6 now is my strategy, and after this, my pawns are doubled, my king is weak, and it's just not good after the queen is getting in and everything, and the pawn is hanging. But instead, I defend the, I threaten queen to h7 first, and then I defend my pawn, which is too passive. I should move my king out of this check once I take, or I should play like rook here, setting up rook e6, but instead I get a little too passive, but then he takes for some reason, and I get to fix my pawn structure. And now after check, I just play f4, and now I'm creating counterplay of my own. And he starts bouncing his knights around the board in a weird way. I missed an opportunity with b4, but I went for knight e4 right away, which threw him off his rocker, and he played knight b3. But after rook d1, black is pretty much losing. And then he plays knight a5, which just allows knight g5 hitting e6. The rook moves to f6. And now I find the really nice idea of trapping the queen. So rook f3, queen here, pinning me for the moment. But I just move out of the way, move the rook, sacrifice the knight, and win the queen for a knight and a rook. And I just go after the king, and it's mate a few moves later. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you. I appreciate you. I think you are awesome. You care about chess and want to improve, or you just like the game and enjoyed watching me play silly 1800 chess. Well, anyway, if I didn't say it already, make sure you like and subscribe. I know I said it. And have a great day, guys.